That's more like it. So you laugh as your camera friend.
I can't do this the whole
15.
time.
Right, guys, complete quiet now down here, please. Okay, 10. Okay. 7, 6, 5.
Good afternoon and welcome to East Kent On Call.
I'm Tilly James.
And I'm Lauren Barnett.
In this show, we look at some of the latest research and updates in the world of health and fitness in East Kent.
And you definitely don't want to miss out on today's exciting lineup. Several experts will join us today to share some great facts about health in the new year. Today we will be looking at an increase in post-traumatic stress for pregnant women.
Food banks have seen a rise in people suffering with mental health issues.
Gyms have had the highest record of members joining this January. Everyone knows how stressful the first few months of motherhood can be, but for young people it can become a serious problem. With more women having children at a younger age, Charlie Banks investigates how postnatal depression is affecting young mothers.
Postpartum depression is an illness which is more common than people realise, affecting 1 in 10 mothers. Juliana Basidi, who is a part-time student at Canterbury Christ Church, feels that the time is right to have children.
Just looking at how my cousins and sisters have had kids and just looking after my nieces and nephews, really, it's just a beautiful thing, literally.
But with 16 to 25-year-olds most at risk, and NHS budgets under great strain, she has seen at first hand what can happen to women suffering from the illness.
So my sister Megan, after she had had her child, we was on a train one time and she literally just started having a panic attack and anxiety problems on the train, and it was just so bad we had to get off the train.
The symptoms range from feeling irritable and angry to constantly crying and feeling that you can't cope. Lizzie North, a young mother who is leader of a support group at Canterbury Hospital, suffered from the illness.
I would say I did suffer from postnatal depression when I first had my son. I was really detached when I had him in hospital, so I was handed him in my arms and I felt slightly different to what I believed I should have done. And actually I did breastfeed my son for the first few months, and every morning I'd wake up, he'd cry and I'd end up crying because of the pain, the stress, and it didn't feel right at the time.
The group works with young mothers in the local area, and she would like there to be more awareness of what kind of support is available for young mothers.
Eventually I actually spoke to a health visitor about it. I did put it off for a while, thinking that I'd just kind of feel naturally I'd get used to feeling that way. And I did end up speaking to a health visitor who supported me, and they gave me ideas of classes to go to. There was a family network for young mothers who I could go speak to, who'd also felt the same way as me, hadn't got extended family around them, and we supported each other.
Charlie Banks, Canterbury Hospital.
Charlie has joined us in the studio to tell us more about the research surrounding this problem. Thanks for joining us, Charlie. So can you explain a bit more about the NHS funding cuts they've seen in the last year?
Well, as we know, the NHS is under great strain at the moment, and unfortunately frontline services are going to take a direct hit, and on the firing line is depression.
And have you noticed an increase in postnatal depression?
Well, nationally it's up by 14%, so more people are recording it. So that's why it's interesting they are cutting depression in this area.
And what kind of opinions have you seen from the mothers with postnatal depression?
Well, Lily North, who featured in my film, she said it was essential for her, this support after she had her baby.
And do you think the funding cuts, that's kind of changed the opinions of mothers who are wanting to have children?
Well, I've been speaking to many women who are planning to have children and women who have had children. And the women who say they're planning to have children, this is really on their minds at the moment, because picture a young mother, you want to have a child, but obviously your husband or your partner is going to have to go out to work, and you rely on these services because you need that support.
And have the NHS made any plans for the mothers suffering with the depression?
Well, the NHS is piloting help schemes. So one's in Canterbury, it's supposed to start at the end of June, where local women who have had children set up support groups for women who are going about to have their babies. But the problem is they're not medical professionals, so do they have any legitimacy of what they're teaching or showing?
Okay, well thank you for that, Charlie.
Thank you.
And for those of you who have set their New Year's resolution to get fit this year, you may have been beaten to it. Lewis Adley reports on a rise in members at the gym this January.
New year, new me, typical New Year's saying people make. As they look to get fit, they sign up for the gym and are enthused about a routine. Canterbury Christchurch University Gym is breaking the trend of people hiding away from their membership and not sticking to their routine after the first month.
Quite a large increase in memberships. Probably have increased by 25%. We've had over 200 new members. Obviously, because we work in terms, we find out if people have taken up the membership now, tend to maintain it for the whole of this term.
Members of old and new have seen the varying pattern in gym turnout, but admit January has been a busy month.
A lot busy, especially during from 4 to 7, a lot busier. So I tried to come in the morning, but I don't get time.
It's on my 3rd year now, and after Christmas every year, it sort of quiets down towards February onwards, after January. And obviously in January you get the free membership as well, which gets people coming as well.
Fitness classes at the Canterbury Christchurch University Gym have proved to be popular so far this year. Play Sport started just 6 months ago and their first new year has been a success. Aidan Amesley, Play Sport coordinator, says he has seen an increase in participation so far this year.
What we found is that because there was so many people sort of going in that January month, because it was all free, that they're sort of retaining a bit longer because they're actually interested in the activities and they had a good sort of first few sessions as well. So
an ever popular fitness option is running, and a large percentage of those who have made the effort to take part have been signing on to the gym.
180 people that weren't already members of the sports centre that went to the activities in January. And half of them have converted into paying a membership for the year already. So, and there's still more that are signing up after that as well. So, it's had a really good positive impact, really. So,
University Gym has seen good numbers so far this year, and participation hasn't fallen by a drastic amount. Lewis Adley reporting from Canterbury.
Live with Lewis now is John Bill, a personal trainer and nutritionist.
Hi, and thank you, John, for joining us today. So, how have you found participation in the new year?
Honestly speaking, every year participation always goes up, skyrockets in January, normally around the second week, both from a client perspective and from just general kind of seeing people in the gym. So yeah, I mean, every year it skyrockets. We can predict it down to almost the date that it's going to start, and also the date that it peters out as well, which is about now. Honestly, sort of second week of February.
So, as you say, people peter out, they maybe don't stick to their routine so much. Why do you think it is that people don't stay with it?
I will be completely honest with you, a lot of it's education. What people tend to do is they will make up their New Year's resolution, they'll sign up to a gym, they'll go in and mess about for an hour, not really having any direction, and then 6 weeks later, they're not seeing results, so they drop it. I would say, generally speaking, if you can get yourself a trainer or go to classes or something to give you a bit of kind of push and education.
So as a trainer, does it frustrate you a lot when this happens? You know, you say someone's going to sign up with you and then you're ready for them and they don't turn up?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it does, but at the end of the day, one thing you've kind of got to recognise is everybody's an individual. Everybody approaches kind of health, fitness, weight loss in a very different way. And if someone's just not ready to commit, they're not ready to commit. So
yeah. So how do you try and keep people committed? Is there a way you can do it?
The main way is to really just keep people focused on their goals, and really connect with people on a kind of an emotional level as to what their goal is. And that usually keeps people kind of going. If you can remind them occasionally or set up triggers to kind of make them really think about why they're doing what they're doing. But also just keep it interesting and fun. You know, half the time people stop because they're not enjoying it. And if they're not enjoying it, they're never going to go.
Is that because the routine given is maybe a bit too similar, or do you give them a diverse...
The thing is, what you've got to do is figure out what the individual enjoys doing. If that's running, great. If that's lifting weights, fantastic. And a lot of the time, people will do the thing that actually isn't beneficial for them. For instance, we know that cardio isn't particularly good at weight loss, weights is, and kind of vice versa. So finding a way to make it fun for them, kind of weight circuits, that sort of thing, is kind of what we try and do, what we try and achieve. So yeah, just injecting that fun, making it enjoyable, making a game out of it. putting in kind of short-term goals so they can actually achieve something.
Okay, well, yeah, that's brilliant to hear. So thanks for joining us today, John,
No
and back down to you in the studio.
Thanks again for joining us, John.
And now, mental health. We look at the rising numbers of people suffering from mental health issues relying on food banks to survive. Emily Clark reports.
Food banks in Canterbury are facing their busiest year ever. The number of people suffering from a mental illness from turning to a food bank has risen dramatically.
The King's College in London say that adults can spend as little as £12 a week on a healthy, balanced diet, but for some this is still unaffordable. Luckily, they have places like the Canterbury Food Bank.
Last night, a lively meeting took place at a Friends Meeting House in Canterbury, where members of the Canterbury Society attempted to find a solution to this rising problem. The hall soon filled with Canterbury residents waiting to hear from several experts on this subject. Sarah Sayer from the Citizens Advice Bureau shared her concerns.
It's long-term support for people. So people with mental health issues may or may not get crisis care, but what they don't have in place really so much anymore is a long-term support for people with mental health issues. And amongst our caseload, people going to the food bank, you will find a lot of people that have mental health problems and that can't manage their way through the benefit system.
According to latest statistics, there are over 4,000 children living in poverty in the Canterbury district. That's 1 in 7 children.
Now you guys took part in this.
Graham Potts, the senior manager of Canterbury's Food Bank, believes it has a stronger mental impact than people would think.
One of the biggest impacts of financial poverty is not necessarily physical, it's mental. People feel that they failed, they feel bad about having to approach a food bank to get food supplies, so they feel like they are a failure. And one of the things that our cafes try to do is our befrienders who man the cafes, they pick people up, give them a cup of tea and coffee and a chat, and try to make sure that they're getting the best help from the best agencies, as well as the food support.
With Canterbury's food banks now busier than ever, every donation counts.
We're now going live to Emily, who is joined by a member of the Christian Union for Canterbury Christ Church University.
Hello, I'm joined here by Rod Gainey from the Christian Union at Christ Church. So, what is your union exactly?
It's a society of various Christians from different denominations, Anglican, Baptist, Catholic, Pentecostal, all joining together in fellowship. The idea is to make Christ's presence known on our campus.
So what kind of activities do you do?
We have outreach events, so this week we have events leading to film and faith. We also have worship, so that's where we have Christian music, and gather together in social environment as well.
On the subject of poverty, few people who rely to food banks, they normally develop mental health issues.
Mm-hmm.
What would be your advice to give to them?
Well, I think the main thing is to focus on whether it's the fact that it's the food bank or whether it's a mental health issue which is the problem. If we're looking at food banks being the issue, then sure, I would say the best thing to do would be to outreach. For example, many churches, whether you have a faith or not, will provide you with food, and will do it in a discreet way in which you don't necessarily feel the embarrassment that I think some people get from a food bank. If it's a mental health issue, then my advice would be definitely go to the doctors. And again, churches also have counselling. There's counselling also at universities as well, if it's from a student-based perspective.
I see. So, what do you think as a society, we as a society should do to support people?
As I think the difficulty with the British society is we don't, we're very individualistic, we're not community-based. One of the things which would be great is if we can focus on that community, and through that community we can gather, we can understand each other. So for example, if you see a friend who seems to be down, who seems to have an issue, always reach out, always talk to them, and attract them in that way.
Well, thank you very much. That's all we have time for. Back to the studio.
Thanks to Robert for joining us today. If you want any more information on any of the stories featured, log on to our website at eastkentoncall.wordpress.com.
And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at eastkentoncall.
Be sure to tune in tomorrow at the same time as we discuss the Dryathlon and find out if anyone managed to stay off the booze.
Thanks for watching. I'm Tilly James.
And I'm Lauren Barnett. Goodbye.